Hey guys, Will here with MediaPlace. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can edit images, video, and audio files directly inside of MediaPlace. All right, so let's go ahead and start with image editing. So there's two ways that you can get to the editing section here in MediaPlace. If you select a file, like a picture, for example, in the right-hand corner, you'll see there is an edit section, and this will take you straight to our editing page inside of MediaPlace. Now let me go back to our library here. The second way that you can do this is by double-clicking on a file, and it will take you to that editing page as well. All right, so let's talk about the interface for our editing section. Up here at the top, you've got our zoom features. We've got, we can fit back to frame here. We've got our hand tool, which allows us to move around our canvas here. And then we have our selection tool, which allows us to make selections on our image, right? We have a one-to-one view, and then we also go back to fit from there. And we scroll down to the right here, we can go to resize. And from here is where you can resize your image and then apply that size. You can crop it. So we could then maybe crop here as well, and then just hit apply, and then it crops it from there. And then we do have the undo redo feature. So if I click the undo arrow there, it will then remove my action previously, right? And then of course, exit takes you back to the library. All right, so now let's dive into some of the details of the primary editing section for this photos, right? So we can save as JPEGs, PNGs, or WebP files. We can adjust the quality. So I always just take it to 100% there. You can adjust the dots per inches here. So you can change this from 72. You can take it up if you need to, depending on your project needs. And then of course we can add elements, which is really cool. So if I select the text here, here's where I can come in here, put in some text, and then I can move it up. I can also change the font color here. If I select this color scheme here, I can then choose which color I want and then go from there. Let's go ahead and keep it white for now. And then we can also choose the opacity as well from here. So you can take it up, or we can make that opacity go down. All right, so you have several different options. You have your text alignment. We've got some drop shadow we could add to it if we want to. And then we also have right to left adjustments as well. All right, and then you can also adjust the font, and by coming in that section, do that well. All right, so we've got our text there. We can also add images from inside of MediaPlace as well. So if I've got images that I want to use, I can then import those in as well. And then, for example, maybe I want to add that dragon in here somewhere. I could bring him in and then put him and frame him where I want to, right? Of course, it's not the most ideal picture to use, but just to show you that you can bring in images as well. All right, so from there, we can add shapes. So I can add rectangles if I want. I can add circles, and you can resize those. And again, you do have options for colors from here that you can change those as well. And then you can adjust the opacity of those from there too. So for example, maybe let's use this rectangle just to show you how that we could use this in a real application here. And maybe I want to make this text pop a little more. So I can make this the width of my text maybe. And then I have these 4 circles on the corners of my box here. And then if I click and drag them in, it kind of makes it more of a rounded rectangle. It's more of a square, right? So it just kind of shapes that a little better. And then from there, you can, we can say, maybe we want to select, we want to take this and we want to send it backwards. So then that way we can have our text come up front, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can manipulate and add things and customize this and make it your own from here, right? So from there, we have transformation. So I can flip this picture horizontally if I want to, vertically. We can also rotate left and we can rotate right. So there's a lot of different options for transformations inside of there. All right, so below that, we have our clone, draw, and erase tools. So with our clone tool, you see at the bottom here, it gives you some prompts, right? So you can hold control on your keyboard and click to select the point of the image where you want to clone from. So if I hold control on my keyboard, select some of these trees, let go of control, I can then left click and drag in some trees, and it'll kind of duplicate some of that brush there that I want to kind of fill out some of that space if I want to. Again, this can also be a tool to use to fix blemishes on faces. So if you want to get rid of a blemish, you can find a clean spot on the face that kind of matches and then clone that section to cover up some of that blemishes. And you can get into more fine detail down here at the bottom. You've got your shape size, your hardness levels, and your opacities can be adjusted down here to kind of fine tune it even more. All right, so our draw tool is the same kind of feature, except this draws on the screen like so, right? And again, you can change that color by selecting here in the brush color and then coming down to the wheel, choosing a different color if you want, or you can then choose your shape size by bringing it up to a bigger shape and then making it bigger, or go from there, right? So again, cool feature to be able to do that inside of MediaPlace to manipulate your photos. And then of course we have the erase feature. And the erase tool, same thing, I can adjust the shape size of this if I want to fine tune and get in a little smaller and I want to maybe take out this boat. I can do this, but when I do erase using this tool, it does erase the entirety of the image here in this section. So as you can see, it creates a transparent background. So again, a really powerful feature but use it to the advantage that you want. Maybe you want to fill in this hole with something else, and you could bring in something that will work for this image from there. All right, so let's work our way down, and below we have our rotate tool, and here's where you can change the angle of your image. So I can then left click and hold and drag to the right, and I can turn it to the right, or I can come to the left and drag it to the left. So you have the option to rotate your image from here, but let's go ahead and take it back to our 0 mark. So we are centered out. Below that, we have our adjustments. So here's where you can normalize colors, or you want to get in and customize them even more. We can create a blur effect if we want to. We can also adjust the brightness of that. So maybe I want to take the brightness down a little bit. I can do that. Or if I think it's too dark, I can take that brightness level back up. Of course, you have options to control the contrast if you want to bring in more contrast in there, adjust the saturation, maybe darken those blues a little bit. And then again, you can always have another lightness option where you can kind of bring up some of that light just a little more. Or if you think it's too much, you can bring it down to the level that you want. Right now, I think that one's pretty good as is. And then you can, if you have an image that may not be as sharp, or maybe you just kind of want to sharpen it just a little bit, you can kind of bring out some of that clarity with some sharpness. And then we do have color rotation here as well, which can really give you some really cool different effects, maybe some creative inspiration that you want to play with, right? All right, so that's the adjustments there. So really it's where you can adjust your brightness, all the color correction that you want to do for your image there. All right, below that, we do have filters. So you can go through any one of these quick filters. Maybe you just want to add something really quick and you don't want to mess with kind of customizing it from the adjustments above. You can choose one of these awesome filters and then kind of go on about your day. Just don't worry about it. Click it and go kind of thing, right? Which is a really, really good thing to have inside of MediaPlace. All right, and then from here, we have our add background. So for the add background to work, it'll tell you here with the little information button that you need to have an image that is transparent for the background to work. So if you have an image like this and you want to use a background, there are a couple of different things that you could do. For example, one would be to go to your erase tool, and let's make our shape size a little bigger, as big as we can get it. And then what I can do is, let's say I want to just carve out a little piece here because maybe I want to insert a background and add some text right there, right? So what I can do is come to my add background. And then once I turn that on, it automatically adds a white background into that transparent layer, which is really cool. And from here, you could tweak this. You could change the colors with the color wheels from here. And then what you could do with that is you could add some text on top. So we come here, I can drag this text down a little small, move it on top here. And then I can then change the text color to be black so we could see it. So that way from there, we could actually make this even smaller to kind of fit the screen here, right? And then you could kind of add whatever it is you want to, but that's just one way to use it if your image doesn't necessarily have a transparent, but you could bring in an image that has transparencies and you can just quickly add a background, which is really fast and awesome feature inside of MediaPlace. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about for our image editing section here is our area blurring. All right, so here's where you can adjust the blur strength. So if you want it to be a really strong blur, you can move that slider up to 52 and higher. Or if you want it to be kind of this mild kind of blur effect, maybe keep it at 19. And your edge smoothing can be adjusted too. So how much smoothing on the edges do you want your blur to have? Let's just keep it at 34 is fine. And so what I can do is now I can click draw. And then what I can do is just draw the area around where I want to be blurred. And then again, you do have options to change the shape size here down below and the opacity of that mask there. Then again, if you mess up, you can always clear the mask and then start over again. All right, so once you've got your selection there, you can hit apply blur. And there you go. It quickly added that blur effect. And again, this is just blurring the face. You could maybe blur some of the background if you want. You can do a lot of different things with the blur effect, but this is just a simple way of how to use this inside of MediaPlace. All right, so say for example, now we've done all these changes and messed with different things and with different pictures here. Now, how do I get this picture to save back to my files there and get it out of here, right? So what we can do is we can export this out by itself to a different folder outside of MediaPlace. You want to take it to a different folder altogether. We can do that by clicking export. If you want to maintain the same synchronization and file structure that we have already created in MediaPlace, then I can then click save here. And I've got it labeled blur. We'll call it blur 1. And if I hit save here, it's going to save it to the My Files folder I have selected there. If I go to drag to folder, say I didn't want to save it to My Files, I could just drag this to my media folder and that's where it would go. So right now I have two duplicates, right? I have one in My Files and one in media. I wouldn't typically do that, but just for example, that's how you can save to different areas if you choose. All right, so now let's go ahead and click on one of our video files. All right, so I've opened up this video clip here, and this is kind of in portrait mode, but what you can do here at the top left is our play button, and then it plays through the video clip itself. And then this navigates to the back of the video, and this shoots to the very end of the video, right? So on the trim side, if I click trim, it allows me to trim the top and the bottom of the video. So I can then left click and drag, and it'll hold to the precise spot that I want to maybe cut that clip and end it. And then I can also move this clip. Maybe I only want it to be a certain amount of seconds. So I could come here, and you'll see here in the bottom right how long this selection is. Right here, it's a 3-second. And it tells you the timestamps it's taking it from. So then you say, okay, I need to have this 3-second cut, but I want it to be here to here, right? So this allows you to fine tune your time selection and then drag your time selection to the part of the clip that you want to actually take, right? And then from here, we come down to our crop. So you could crop this even more if you want to, if that's something you wanted to do. And then here is where we have some of our options for exporting, right? So this is a video. So we could save as an MP4, a WebM, or an MOV, right? We'll keep it at MP4, and you can adjust the quality from here. And then you could resize this. Maybe you didn't want it to be a 1080 by 1920. You could adjust it to be a different resolution size if you wanted to. And here's where you could rotate this clip. Now, you won't see this happen once I select it, but you'll tell you the rotation will be applied once you save it out, right? So if you want it to be 90-degree rotation, then once you save it, you'll see that effect apply, right? So I'll click none for now. Here's where you can adjust your frames per second. So if you want 30, maybe you want 24 frames a second, maybe you want 60, you could adjust that right there, right? So let's just keep it at 30. If you want to fade in, you can add a small fade in seconds there. If you want a 2-second fade in, you could start that. Or if you want it to fade out and have a 2-second fade out, you could do that as well. All right. So again, options are there. And then here's where you can save out for your video. So we could save it, and let's just call this, we'll call it horse edit, and 3 seconds, since that's what it is. And we're going to go ahead and save it to my files. And again, you could just export it out to a secondary hard drive if you want to. Maybe you just want to get it. Maybe it's a friend of yours' hard drive. You want to save something out, maybe for them to keep. You could do that from there. We could hit save here, and it'll save it to our My Files, and it just is transcoding, just finished. Or I could drag it to that same folder if I didn't want to hit save here, or I could drag it to my media, and it would then create a copy of them into that media folder there. And again, these changes are being applied to my source folder on my hard drive, right? So again, MediaPlace is a visualizer, right? So it's seeing what's in these root folders that I've synchronized in here, and it's applying these changes that I'm making in real time, which is really cool. All right, so again, if I come back to exit, you'll see that here is my 3-second horse edit, and it made all the changes that I wanted to, which is pretty cool. All right, so now let's go ahead and check out our audio files. And I believe I have some audio files on my media section here. And there we go, I have this. So if I double click on audio, you'll see it opens up our little audio editor section too as well. So from here, I can punch in and zoom in on the wave. If I want to zoom in, I can zoom out. If I go to the left here, it takes me to the beginning of the track. This takes me to the end. And then of course I could play that track, right? Small little audio clip, take me back to the beginning there. And again, if I want to trim this, I have that same ability that I did in my video clip. I have the same option that I can for audio. So I can move my selection bar to whichever section of the waveform I'm looking at, and then I can left click and drag at the beginning and trim down that clip. Maybe I don't want to have the whole selection. I just want a sample to send somebody. I can then find that piece of the music I want. And again, here in your trimming section, you can see I've got a 6.36 second selection, and it tells you the time it's taking it from. And then of course you could choose if you want to export this as an MP3 or a WAV. And then in WAV, you get the options for fade in and for fade outs. MP3, you get to choose your bit rate. So maybe you want a higher bit rate. You can do that. Or if you're worried about size for setting it just for preview, you could go a little lower, maybe 192. And then from here is where we could save it out. So we can call this one our audio cut. And then we can call it, let's just say this is our 6-second cut. All right, and then now we can save it. So I could save it to my media, or I could save it to my files. So you know what, let's just go ahead and go to audio, and let's just save it there. All right, so it saved that waveform. And so now if I go exit, here is my audio cut that's 6 seconds long, right? So really quick and easy tools to use inside of MediaPlace. So it shows you how to manipulate files for pictures, how to work with video files, and then how to quickly edit audio files inside of MediaPlace. All right, so hopefully you got some really cool quick tips out of here. Look out for some future tutorials. And as always, keep creating.